Learning is just something that you do all day, every day. And it doesn't have to be in a set curriculum. It doesn't have to be at a set time, at a set place. It's just all day, every day.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Learning by Living, the podcast about people who learn outside of conventional school. Over a recent holiday vacation, Kevin caught up with relatives of his about their experience unschooling. This family, with kids ranging in age from 7 months to 12 years, came upon unschooling almost by accident. They originally set out to homeschool their children, but noticed that the children learn much more by following their passions. Wishing to remain anonymous, the family sat down with Kevin for a face-to-face discussion on everything from what their kids choose to do with their time to the benefits and the self-doubt that come with unschooling. We hope you enjoy this episode of Learning by Living.
I figure we should start by having you guys kind of describe yourselves, your family. Who are you?
Sure. So we're just a family, maybe a little atypical due to our size, but...
What's the size?
Yes, we're 7, family of 9. We have 7 kids.
Age range
and
from...
the age range is now 12 down to 7, almost 8 months. Yeah. So it's beautiful chaos, is how we describe it. And we just, as we started this journey, I would say it was not necessarily our original plan, but the kids, as they came, it was a constant conversation, and we loved them. We loved interacting with them. We loved growing with them. We made room for one more, and then I probably had more anxieties when I was a lot younger, and one of the, finance is always one of those things that you prudently think about. Sure. And schooling was, is one of the anxieties I think that people come across. How are you going to pay for so many kids? But really, that wasn't our fundamental drive in the beginning. Mm-hmm. I mean, you wanted to educate them.
Oh, yeah. When I was coming into the church, I met a lot of homeschool families, and their families were so awesome. Their kids, their relationships that they had with their parents and the relationships that the siblings had with each other was just amazing. I grew up in public schools my whole life, and it was just astonishing to me to know that these children, their best friends are their siblings, and they get along really well, and the families were just all stellar families, and I wanted that for our family. This was before Dave and I were even dating, and I was like, I want that. And I just thought it was super awesome. So then Dave and I, when we were dating, I think I told you that I wanted to homeschool, or that was an interest of mine. And then when we got married and then I was pregnant with I just immersed myself in everything homeschooling.
Yeah, and it was always, most of the homeschool stuff is, the understanding is that there's going to be curricular materials that you either buy or something like that, and you go through that. So did you do that for...
So we did that first, because I didn't know what to do at first. We did a program called 5 in a Row at first with when he was younger. We love to read books, so everything in our life, even from when he was super little, we would just sit and read books a lot of the day. So 5 in a Row is a program that's based on good books. You read a book, the same book for 5 days in a row, and then you explore different avenues of that book. For, you'll look up a place on a map to see where China is compared to where you are. You'll learn about the culture there. So everything is kind of based in that book. And
there
would
be some artistic aspect.
Right, you would study the illustrations and figure out, and then you would try those, try to do watercolor if the book was done in watercolor. So you learn a lot through that, and that kind of opened my eyes into learning is just something that you do all day, every day. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be in a set curriculum. It doesn't have to be at a set time, at a set place. It's just all day, every day. So it really opened my eyes into learning just all the time with him and exploring and doing things together.
Now, I remember you had talked to me, I think, at a party about your oldest boy learning to read, and it was really unexpected, and it seems to me like that was when you started to think about, wait a minute, do we need a curriculum? I'd have to ask you to retell that story because it was so surprising.
Sure. So with our oldest son, we...
I would say we were a little anxious in the beginning because, reading opens up the whole world, and he was not. he was not. We were reading to him a lot.
And what age was this?
Yeah.
So I think I was feeling anxious, like first grade, because that's when they start reading, and they really push reading in schools. And I had heard, and I had talked to other people that told me that it's okay if they start later reading. Like, don't worry about it. But he was our first, so I was nervous about it.
Yeah.
So we did do a little bit of phonics work with him, but then really we just read to him all the time. And when we were reading, I would point to a word like, see that word? Whenever those letters are together, that's the. And he got it.
Yeah.
And we started reading Magic Treehouse books. And we would read it together. So he would read a sentence and I would read a sentence. And then by the second book in the series, he was just reading. And we just let him go. And then so he went from reading all the Magic Treehouse books to reading C.S. Lewis to reading. He just took off.
Right.
So he didn't start reading till the end of, I guess, second grade. Because I was trying to go by benchmarks of grades based on their age level.
Yeah.
So by the end of second grade, he was reading, and he went to I don't even know what grade level reading, because he was just reading anything.
It's been a number of years since he read the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Right.
So, it's, and as well as some other material. He, of course, was our first. And you said, of course, the anxiety, with your first. Every parent knows that, you're.
People always ask him, are they reading yet? Are they reading yet? We're reading lots to him, and he grasps everything that we're reading to him.
And he delves deep. And so
he
then.
asks good questions.
And then he would get passionate. And of course, reading opened up everything. So he would get passionate about a subject. And he asks a lot of questions, which, of course, kind of got us on the. I mean, a lot of parents probably just answer questions, but you answer a lot of questions in your lifetime, but then it gets deeper and deeper and deeper, and then you're like, I don't know that. You're going to have to look it up.
Let's look it up together. Let's figure it out. Figure it out together.
And then at some point you start to question, like, do we really need to bring a curriculum in? Because it seems like they're just getting passionate about these things. So, like, well, why don't we first talk about, what about your other kids? So we've talked about your oldest son, kind of his journey reading. I mean, they're all kind of different. So what about your other kids?
They're all very different. Technically our oldest, we adopted her. She went to school for preschool, kindergarten, first grade, and then when she came to us, we homeschooled her for second grade. So it was a lot different for her. She we noticed a huge difference between our oldest son and now our oldest daughter. She had a lot of trouble just wanting to learn and wanting to just delve into things. Because she was taught from a young age that you sit at a desk, this is when you learn. So it's really just now, so that was 5 years ago, really just now, this past summer, when we've really noticed that she's been more interested in learning what she's interested in and being able to figure that out. So she wanted to learn about Lyme's disease, so we got tons of books out from the library on Lyme's disease. We just got a German Shepherd, so she has been really interested in learning everything she can about German Shepherds, about training, about all things from them. So that's been really exciting to see that she's finally.
But it took a while.
It took a long time.
It took a while for the interest to open up.
It took a long time, and I was constantly trying to figure out what she wanted to learn about, and then just because I love to get books from the library, just to have around for the kids about what they're interested in or what I think would be cool for us to learn about together.
Yeah. Do you ever have those moments where you think something will be really cool, you bring home books and it's like nobody picks them up?
Yes.
And then there's other things where you probably never would have thought that would be of interest, and the kids are just like, I want to know that.
Yes. I got this book on essential oils and different illnesses that essential oils can help. And I was like, I'll get this for me. And I had it here, and she totally delved into that book. And I was like, okay, great. Yeah. So then she was telling me, well, if you have a sore throat, this essential oil helps that because of this.
Yeah.
And you sit down with the kids, and with the computer and order books on the library or talk about interest and pick things out. So, and then of course, going to the library is a big event.
Recently, our oldest son has been into computer programming. So I got a ton of books out from the library in computer science about how internet works, and I really learn along with the kids. I didn't have a super great education, I feel like, but I really learn along with them about how the Wi-Fi works.
It's funny, I feel like a lot of people feel like in order to homeschool or unschool, you need to be teaching, you need to be an expert on things, but like you said, it's really, you're just learning with them.
Yeah, and you really don't know something very well until you try and teach it, right? I mean, you think you may know it, but then once you try and teach it, it solidifies.
And you're learning all the time up until the day you die. Like, you're learning all the time. Yeah. And I've noticed with the kids that you don't fully learn something unless you fully dive into it and immerse yourself into it. Yes. And you have to have that motivation yourself to do that. Mm-hmm. So when you're trying to, I found that when you're trying to, I want to learn it, I want us to learn about the human body. That was one of my goals this past summer. Nobody was really interested in that. They were interested in learning about Lyme's disease and German Shepherds and computer science and the internet.
It's so interesting how everyone picks different stuff too. Like, right? It's not like you can put one thing in front of everyone and all seven will be like, I want to learn this.
Right.
Everyone does
different things. And now our oldest son is really interested in baking and cooking. And so, and for our family, we have to double all the recipes. So then you're doing math by doubling all the recipes and fractions and...
So are there any curriculum stuff that you do that's like more formal in nature? I think you said math is still one thing.
We do a formal math curriculum. Yeah. It's a book, and there's a DVD that they watch to learn the lesson, and then we do it that way.
And do they usually pick what they're going to learn from that math, or do you figure out like
we just follow it? Yeah, that's one of the things that we just follow. But we do math in all of our everyday lives too. With money, the kids wanted to buy. What were you guys buying? At the snack shack for soccer, they buy their own snacks. So we do math there. I mean, you're paying for things, and I was having them pay for things more recently by themselves. I forget when it was, but... So do
you feel like that formal math curriculum is easier because they're doing math in other places, or do you feel like it's...
Because they're doing math in other places all the time. Yeah. And I was just in this area that we live in. It's kind of scary to do unschooling or independent learning completely, totally. So it just helps me be at peace or at ease more with doing the math curriculum.
They get a little introduction to bookwork. It also helps, again, having a lot of kids running around, it helps them to be busy and practicing on a particular, so they can sit down with a couple of books and work through a couple of pages, and it's only 1 or 2 pages, so it's
not taking up a lot of their time.
It doesn't take up very minimal. I probably sit down with our third daughter for maybe an hour at the most, and we do math, we do a phonics program with her. Her and I read together. We have some flashcard words that we're trying to get memorized, so we do go through some flashcard words. They do piano, all those things in under an hour, I would say. And that's with interruptions from other kids.
So then all the rest of your time is free
it's just free time.
Do
what they want to do. And our third daughter's really artistic, so we've been really able to delve into that more and find different YouTube videos on drawing and different things.
Now, before we had started, you had said something interesting about, like, you're not as anxious as you were about, like, them not getting something. Like, they'll get it on their own time.
Right.
What led to that, like, decrease in anxiety?
Seeing that the first two are just getting things, and actually the younger ones learned so much from the older kids just in everyday life.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, because age mixing is another big thing. Like, the older kids, if they know something, like, oftentimes the younger kids will just pick up on that. Are there any specific, like, examples you remember of, like, that just very visibly happening?
Yes, at the dining room table, talking about somebody who was doing a math problem or saying, I forget what we were talking about, but it was something math related. They were like, well, this plus this or this times this. And then our younger son, our fourth child, basically doing multiplication. And he was probably kindergarten age, and it was just amazing that he shouted out the answer or knew right away what it was. So that was fascinating, just by being around us and picking up things and thinking about it.
Yeah. Now, your husband also mentioned a little bit earlier that, like, it's really hard to do kind of a complete, like, self-directed learning, unschooling Are there any like pressures that you feel just living in a place where everyone is kind of doing a conventional school? Is that what makes it hard? Or?
That's what makes it hard, definitely. I remember being in a homeschool meeting with ladies and telling them, they were all talking about what curriculums they were going to use. And I'm like, well, I've been reading about unschooling and I really think that's awesome. And they were like, oh, maybe just for the younger years, but definitely not when they get older. You can't do that when they get older. And I just left there feeling defeated and like, I'm not going to go back there again. I don't understand why I don't know. So just a lot of pressure. And the regulations that the state sets that you have to check all the boxes.
So the state that you're in, if I understand, has every year you have to submit a portfolio of things that kind of roughly match what the state standards are?
Correct. So you do a review either once or twice a year, and then you have to like present samples of work of what they did that year for math, for social studies, for science, for health. And it depends on what reviewer you get.
Some of them more sympathetic.
Some of them understand more that learning just happens all the time. So you could say, well, we talk about nutrition. We bake together. We cook together. We make dinners together. We talk about oral hygiene. We talk about hygiene in general for health. And some would be like, well, no, you have to have a worksheet for each thing. And how many hours a day are you spending on math? Or whatever. And trying to explain to them, well, we do it all day. We learn all day, every day together. It was harder. So that pressure too. I felt like I was living according to meeting those guidelines instead of just being. And during our first couple of years, I would have a planner that I would write down, and that was stressful, but write down, at lunch we talked about vegetables and nutrients and this, to document it. But then after doing that for a month or two, I realized we are covering everything that they're asking us to cover just in life. Yeah,
you can't isolate that one time of the day that we talked about like math related stuff. It just happens.
It just happens all the time. Health, science, history. And sometimes I do still get anxious about, are we doing as good a job as if they would be in school? But then I just tell myself, we're doing better because they're learning with us. We're teaching them that learning is a process. We're following their interests.
And it sounds like they learn how to look for stuff and learn how to, so if they do have a gap in their knowledge, they learn how to find books on it, or they ask questions about it and stuff like that.
Definitely.
Which is the process in life. Like that, and that's kind of our focus. My focus is when they go to whatever institutional school they eventually go to, and I think the institution, if it's a quality institution, will recognize this. If the child comes with a portfolio and with the ability to be able to articulate that they can learn whatever they need and have that confidence, what else is there? They're prepared for life. It's just a matter of delving into that subject matter. And later grades in any academic program is that you follow your passion, hopefully, right? You follow your passion, you have a real motivation, you do the research, you do the time, you bring whatever it takes to the table, learn how to acquire it in order to be successful in that field, or make your own field, I mean, so our kids are learning about that. I mean, life teaches you that in some respects. It's just we've been, we're so free in our current standing. So it's quite the blessing that we're free, that our kids are able to follow their interests and have the time to follow their interests. So we don't want to bind them up.
Any apprehensions that you still that kind of remain at this point? Because usually, being in a world where everyone kind of goes to school, it's really hard not to have apprehensions about
it ebbs and flows. I feel like, and sometimes I'll feel a little more anxious, and then we'll be like, no, they're doing, look at all these other things. Or we'll feel a little anxious talking with his colleagues about their children doing, different things. But I'm like, really, if you just sit back and look and watch them and not, take the anxieties out of it, just watch them, then you see all the things that they're learning throughout the day.
So sometimes you just kind of miss those things, and you kind of have to step back.
You have to step back, right. That's what I think. Like sometimes if you start to get a little too anxious for myself, then I do have to step back and just watch them during the day and see what they're learning and see that they're doing great.
Any examples you can think of times when they've been learning something like that and you kind of missed it because you
wasn't stepping back?
Yeah.
I would say it's always almost a comparing with the Jones type mentality that I think we all struggle with, right? So it's, these kids over here are doing this at this particular time, or they have this particular structure. Our kids don't have that. Are they missing out? No, because they have a comparable structure or comparable experience in another way, or maybe it's not necessary. And they have that freedom to be creative. And, they're not being trained to be a robot. Their minds are open and creative. And
the kids were, an example, I don't know if this goes with it, but the kids were wanting to learn typing. So I found an online free typing program that they could use, but now wants to type recipes. So instead of doing that typing curriculum, I'm just letting him type recipes, and he's organizing our computer, all the files in our computer too, and typing out all these recipes that he really likes and starring the ones that we've tried. And
so it's kind of like reading. He's almost going beyond what the curriculum was. It's like, okay, the curriculum's going to stay over here, and I'm just going to go.
I'm just going to do my own thing now.
Is that pattern something you see in pretty much all your kids, or are some kids different than others in that way? Where it's like you have a curriculum and they just kind of go like, no, we're going to put that over here. I'm going to kind of do it my own way.
Do it your own way. I think it's a pattern we see in all of them. He being our oldest son, I feel I notice it more often in him.
Yeah.
But I think it's.
I think of the older children, you see the fruit more manifest with them, right? Our oldest daughter has her own business, and she put that together and put together, price lists. Some we had to work with her, some of them are a little outlandish,
but she'll learn that over time.
Right, exactly, But then she learns a little bit about economics, and then she does advertising and label development.
Wow.
And
so where does she go to learn that stuff? Does she look online to learn some of that? Does she ask you all to learn it, or
she just creatively comes up with it herself?
Comes up with it herself.
Okay. So it's like trial and error.
And she's really good at it, actually.
Wow. So it's just kind of trial and error. Like, I'm going to try this, see if it works.
Yeah, and she's really good at it. She knows what people like, and she crochets and just creates things that she sells and advertises to neighbors, and she's made a lot of money, actually.
Wow. I mean, think of all the stuff you have to learn and develop in order to do that.
Yeah, and
you can't break that up into subjects.
Right, exactly.
She writes letters to friends and puts her advertisements in there and says, "Start a business. This is what I have for sale." Wow. And it's neat.
That's great.
She probably will go into business one day or something. She's good at it.
Here's a question I've always wanted to ask unschooling folks. When your kids get into something, they find something they really want to do, how long, front to back, can they spend doing that? Is it like they spend weeks doing this one thing and then they're done and then they move on to something else? Or
it depends per kid.
Our
oldest son takes months. In certain things, and then sometimes he's done and moves on. When he was 2, we wanted to learn all the planets, so we delved into space for a long time, and he learned all of his planets. He learned so many things about space just from me reading books to him, and it was a long time. And then so it was months, and then we moved on to, I don't even remember what we moved on to after that, but
probably battleships or
war history. He loves history. So it's months. Some things they take longer on than others, I would think. But now he's into recipes and typing recipes and baking, and that's been a month maybe or so.
It's so different than school, because school you would do 45 minutes of math, 45 minutes of reading, and here it's like you do a month and a half of astronomy.
Oh, yeah.
And then you do a month and a half of this. Yeah, that's interesting. Are there any points in time where they are doing stuff during the day or find something that doesn't really seem like it's a productive learning thing, and then you get a little concerned because I know a lot of parents have that difficulty. It's like, my kid doesn't really seem to be doing anything productive.
There's definitely been that and some anxieties over that. Our oldest son, again, he's just an easy example, has always liked to tell stories in his head. So he is an introvert, so he likes to spend time by himself throughout the day. So he'll tell stories in his head, and you'll see him jumping around and telling stories, and it's this whole orchestrated plot in his mind. So part of us sometimes would get anxious, like, he's just wasting all this time telling stories. But then we come back and we tell ourselves, no, he might grow up to be a famous writer one day and put all these stories on paper, and this is his development time that he's working all this stuff out and whatever he's doing. So sometimes
and we did encourage him at a number of different occasions to put some of these things down on paper.
Because we'd love to read them. We'd love to share them.
We'd love to hear some of them. And, he's been very hesitant. I think, I couldn't pin down exactly why, except for the fact that it is more difficult to write. It's not to that point where he wants to sit down and just, but, he's typing a lot of recipes. Maybe in the future he'll start just winging away on the computer and getting these things down. Or maybe they're just private for right now.
Right, just fine. And before that, so now he's been into computer science and computer programming and learning things about the internet and different things. So before that, though, he was really into Minecraft books. We don't have a video game system or anything, but so he would just read all the Minecraft books. And I remember us having anxieties that he's wasting so much time just reading these Minecraft books, and he would come up with stories and different things. But now he's actually creating games on the internet.
Yeah.
Through different programs on his own, and they're good. They're fun games. The other kids like to play them.
Wow. It's funny because I hear a lot of parents concerned about Minecraft because Minecraft as a game is like just super addicting for kids, and they're always concerned like he's not doing. Like, out of all the games that you could be concerned about, Minecraft is not the one you should be concerned about. Like, there's a lot of interest. Like, you're building a world.
Right, it's neat.
Yeah. So he's creating games.
Yes, and that's another thing about homeschooling, unschooling. It's addictive, right? So he's not the only one. The other kids see him doing that. His younger brother, wants to do what they're very different personalities. Yeah. But, of course, when it comes to computers, he wants to spend it. Older brother's spending time on the computer. I want to be on the computer, so they're sitting back to back, working on different computers, designing games and at different levels. And then, of course, the girls want to get in, and so it's it becomes this, as all learning does. One starts, and they may delve deep into a subject matter or two, but if there's a process, the other ones want to do that process, especially the little ones. Yeah. And so you have writing and creativity and crafts, there's a lot of shared learning and helping each other. Sometimes there's some fighting over resources, but again, resource management, that's another learning skill, right?
That's another real life skill that you have to. So it sounds like if we were to come to your house on any given day, we would see different kids doing different things, or sometimes together, and everyone's just kind of doing their own thing. And you as the parent, you're just kind of watching it happen and just helping people if they need it. And
absolutely.
Like
that. I try to carve out time for each of them in the mornings to sit down with them and go over things that they're interested in learning. And we do have our math book that we sit down and do together. But that helps just to have that one-on-one time with each of them too.
Do they tend to enjoy doing like the math book stuff? I've talked to some other unschoolers who their kids were in school, they were doing math, and they found that once they were home and they could do what they wanted to do, and it was like a math book, they said like it was a lot easier to get them to do math.
Oh yeah.
Than it would be maybe at school.
Yeah, I don't know. So we didn't have the school experience. Except for our oldest daughter.
That's right.
But they do enjoy it. Our younger son, our fourth child, he sometimes will not want to stop playing to come and work with me, but he needs that one-on-one time with me, and I find that he does better during the day after we have that one-on-one time together. So we'll usually do a math book, and then lately, instead of doing his phonics book, he wants to write stories. So we write stories together, and that I count that as like a check.
As the check on the
as
curriculum.
the check on the curriculum thing for his handwriting and for his writing and phonics. Because then we sit down and figure out. He's like, okay, well, how do you spell was? Well, how do you think you spell was? And he figures it out.
Yeah. So what are the biggest challenges? Because you've been doing this for a while now. You've been doing this for some years. Sounds like you've been growing in confidence with it. Of course, there are always challenges. Like, what are the biggest challenges of self-directed learning and unschooling?
For me, I always want to make sure that I am giving them enough of what they need and providing them with the resources that they need to follow their interests. So that's been just a little bit of an anxiety of mine, that I can provide them everything that they need to delve into what they want to delve into, and for me to be paying attention enough to say, like, okay, well, it sounds like you're really interested in this while they're younger. As they get older, then they can do that themselves. But as they're younger, so that I feel like is a little bit of a challenge for me in that. But then also just in meeting the regulations, I guess, of the state is a challenge at times, but it's been fine. And then maybe just interactions with other people that don't understand. Like you meet people at the grocery store, what grade are you in? And my daughter's, Mommy, what grade am I in? Like, things like that.
So at the party that we were recently at, one of the people there asked your oldest son how they were enjoying school, and I was sitting right there, and I just stepped back to listen to what that conversation was, and he had to explain, well, I'm homeschooled, and then the question was, well, who's your teacher? And then I wanted to hear what the answer to that was. But you're right, it's hard. It's probably hard for them too, because they have to explain it to people.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And our oldest daughter, she is like torn. She sometimes says she would like to go to school, and then sometimes says she likes to be homeschooled, because she can see the benefits. She's very social.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of activities with other homeschoolers in the area, and a lot of people. We're always interacting with people, but she sees her friends that are in school, that they're with their friends all the time. So that's what she thinks happens all the time. You're with your friends all the time. You just hang out all the time.
Right.
No.
Not quite.
Not quite. But she sees the benefits of being home too.
Yeah, she was explaining it to me at the party that we were recently at, and she said something really astute, which was there are pros and cons, right? It's like the pro is that you get to see your friends all the time, but the pro of homeschooling is that you get to do more of what you want to do. And I think you can definitely hear that struggle
with her.
And she's the one who you adopted after she had already been to school for, I think, 2 or 3 years. Yeah, but it sounds like because what I remember was that she used to really want to go to school. I think a year ago or so, she really wanted, and now she seems to be more torn. Any understanding why that is, that she's more...
We try to talk about the benefits of homeschooling with her more. Her personality, and just from her past, she always thinks the grass is always greener on the other side.
Right.
Always. So we try to explain, well, that's your perspective from being on the outside, but it's probably not like that when you're actually in it. And these are, from our experiences, these are the benefits of this, and these are the cons of this. And we explained to her our reasons for homeschooling and why we choose to do what we do and why we love it and why we picked this for our family.
Yeah.
So I think she's starting, as she's getting older, starting to see, oh yeah, I think they're right. I think, I don't know, that's my thought. I don't know.
During that transition phase where she was in institutional school and the rest of our kids were in homeschooling, we didn't have as many kids, but it was very difficult to be on those two schedules. You kind of almost negate all the advantages of homeschool, or a lot of them, being on the institutional schedule, because you have to fulfill all the obligations, of the institution, and you're not, so it's, goodness, that was difficult. So
it was so difficult. It was so stressful. I felt, so you have to be out the door on a certain time, you have to be back at a certain time, and then if you're on a field trip or doing something fun with the other ones, you have to stop to go pick the other one up, and all the extras that come with institutional school, all the special days where they have to dress up a special way each time, it was a lot.
How did your other kids deal with that? Because of course she's seeing your other kids staying home and spending time at home and with the family, and she's got to go somewhere, but then they're seeing her leave and then come back. And
it was hard. It was probably about 6 months, because she came into our family. Well, no, she came into our family in April, May. So it was only 2 months.
Right.
We homeschooled her the very next year. Yeah, so it was
the 2 months was enough.
It was hard. So it was hard on them too, and it was in a big adjustment phase.
They were very young too.
It was hard.
So what are the biggest benefits of having your kids home and doing like learning at home and stuff like that?
For me, one of the biggest benefits is the relationships that you have with your children. You really are able to develop that relationship with them and just learn together. And I feel like they would come to us more with questions and be more open to come to us with questions than maybe I felt, because I was in school, in institutional school. So maybe it was harder to come to your parents with questions because you don't have that time together, that relationship, that bond. And I think it's so important for the kids to be able to come to us with any questions that they have, because we want to teach them and show them the ways of the world. We don't want other people to do that.
For me, it's more the flexibility is the huge advantage that I see, and the fact that we are able to take advantage of opportunities that just kind of come out of thin air, or if I'm on a business trip and they can come along, if just any type of opportunity, we have so much flexibility that we're able to take advantage of them when they come.
Definitely. We took a 2-week trip and went to visit all the Great Lakes, and then went to Wisconsin for our cousin's graduation. And that was so awesome to have that opportunity. Just take 2 weeks and just go. And then we went to the beach in September this past year, which was great. We wouldn't have been able to do that.
And just the mindset of you're always learning. And they understand that well, and we understand that well. And so, I just think that they're set up for life, how it truly is, and not a kind of a false structure in order to make things efficient, which I understand the concept, but as far as a family, the way we're structured, and if you have the ability to, once you have one of us at home, you just have that ability of the flexibility and then, all around learning throughout the schedule and throughout the day in a very intimate way.
I'm really looking forward to high school also, because I feel like for my high school, there's a lot of wasted time as you got in your older grades. And I'm really excited to be able to really delve into their interests, have them delve into their interests, and maybe take some college classes if they're interested in certain things, and not really be pressured that, okay, you graduate, now you gotta go to college, now you gotta figure out what you wanna do. All of a sudden, you have to figure it out. I feel like we both struggled with that we graduated and then we're like, okay, now we have to figure out what we want to do for the rest of our lives. And it was super stressful.
And you feel like they'll have, probably by that age, they'll have more of a sense of the things they enjoy doing, the things they're good at doing, that stuff,
Right, because we can delve into that a little bit more. And
they've been able to learn the process of following something till the interest wanes, and know if it's, our second oldest daughter, she is just always artistic and always creative in that way, and she creates art that is
beautiful,
very unique to her, and it's just, you look at a piece and you know that she did it, as opposed to any of her friends or anything, or her older sister. It's just very unique, and that stayed with her forever. So since we've known, so she knows that that's a strength of hers, and that's an interest, and then it's just a matter of when she wants to delve in and how deep she wants to delve, and we don't want to, we're not putting her in any box, but it's just that she knows with confidence that is a very large strength that she has, and it's an interest that she has, and
she can pursue it to whenever or wherever she wants to pursue it, and then go and pursue something else.
And yes, and with utter confidence that she will not be judged if she's taking advantage of that or not.
Especially because you didn't go into this thing thinking about unschooling, and you had to learn it as you go. I'm sure there are going to be people who listen to this who are kind of in the same situation. They're learning as they go. Do you have any kind of advice or things that you've learned along the way that you feel like other people who are maybe thinking about something like this should know? What are the pieces of advice that you wish you would have gotten?
And I still have to tell myself just to relax, and just to be aware and be present, and but just to relax and have confidence in that. As a parent, you know what's best for your child, and just have confidence in that, and confidence in that they're getting a really great education just by being around you.
One of the things that I've been focusing on is fundamental core principles. And it may be fundamentals of a particular process, or it may be just, developing and really articulating those core principles in my life that I want to transfer to my kids. You have so much, and this kind of going back a little bit to advantages of homeschooling, you're really able to disseminate that to your children when you're in close contact with them very often. Yeah. But it also runs through the core of whatever the interest is. And I have a lot of interest. One of them is we have a big garden, and we're doing this thing with wood chips. Just, I don't know. There's lots of things on the property, and so my Saturdays and with the kids, being able to bring those principles into that work, as far as focusing on what I would tell other people. Yeah. Have your fundamental principles and your goals mapped out, not too narrowly, but those broad principles that you want to make sure that your kids pick up, that are super important to you, and you want to have valid discussions with them. You will naturally bring them into your conversation with them. But it's good to kind of know where you stand and articulate that a little bit. That's the structure for your own self, and I think it's healthy for anybody's life. Then you live naturally. You live according to those principles. You follow your own interests, and then the kids are able to see, Daddy's got this hobby, but it's, invite them into it, explain it. If they don't want to come into it, that's fine. And I have to drop some of my hobby interests because I want to spend more time, obviously, with the kids. So you don't get overly discussed, with your hobbies. But if it's something, especially like gardening, where there's so much education there, and it's good for them to be exposed to, invite them in. And then I would say minimize the distractions and the marketing that a lot of the culture pushes you towards. Because, this gets back to principles. What do you truly want your kids to learn? What will truly be good for our family moving forward as a unit, as well as our kids moving forward in life? A lot of what is pushed upon us is marketed to us because it makes money for other people, right? And it's not necessary. Maybe it's a convenience that you do want to choose to have, right? But you should really think about it and go through that process. And your kids need to learn that process. And if they are discerning and have good critical thinking skills, then my goodness, they've really got a strong skill set to be able to move into life and to make wise decisions. And teaching wisdom, that's our job, right? So minimizing the distractions. We threw out our TV set a long time. Well, I would say it died, and we just didn't buy it.
Right. They were too busy doing
but just a lot of these distractions, so that you're able to make space for other things that are just really important. And we haven't missed that aspect, and we don't, things that we decide to kind of let go of, we don't miss them, and it's okay. If you're a little different from everybody else, that's okay. Trust the process, stick to your principles, teach wisdom, and they'll do great. They'll go to great heights.